Everybody, welcome back to the Insiders Lounge. Today we have another episode and another special guest. Soheil, thanks for coming on, and feel free to give everyone a quick introduction before we get started here.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. So my name's Soheil Var, professional footballer in Dubai. Also currently building a professional football club in 365 days. And that's the quick recap. And then I guess we'll get into a little bit of the storyline, growing up in Canada, making the move over to Dubai and all that. But the recap is playing football here in Dubai and currently building up a pro football club.
Brilliant. I love it. Let's get things started. Yeah, like you said. So a lot of people I think don't know you're actually born in Austria, right? I have that correct? And then
Yeah.
moved to Canada?
Exactly. So I was actually born in Vienna, Austria. And then when I was a kid, we moved over to Canada. So that transition was quite difficult because, when you're a kid, you've got your friends and you're used to a certain way of living. And then we made the transition over to Canada. So I needed to learn how to speak English and French at the same time, integrate into a new culture. And that taught me a lot of things. And then, yeah, most of my school years I had in Canada growing up.
And then let's get into some of your early footballing memories. So were you able to start playing football in Austria? What was the age like when you moved over? And then what was it like growing up in Canada playing football?
Yeah, so Austria's main sport is football. So everybody there
Mhm.
plays football. I remember I moved over around 8. So when I
Okay.
was in school, at recess, at school break, we're all playing football. I never played at a super high level. Like I played a little bit of club soccer or football in Austria,
Mm.
but I mainly just played for fun out there. So after school, we'd go to the park, play with a couple kids, then after I moved to Canada, it's actually funny. I broke my leg on a ski trip. It was the last hill coming down on the ski trip too. And it was a pretty bad fracture, like it broke my whole tibia. So I had a
Mm.
cast on for a couple months and it was about to heal. And then I remember there was a slip in a grocery store that happened. And then like my bone kind of slid and it made it a lot worse. And so the whole trip over to Canada, I had a broken cast on my leg. And I remember like one day at school, the fire alarm drill went, and then like I had to go down the stairs with the crutches, and I was slowing everybody down. But yeah, coming into Canada, obviously the main focus for my parents was let's get our kid, integrated into school, focus on
Mm.
education, all that. So I actually wasn't part of a club or anything up until about 13, 14. So I
Wow.
would just play for like recess. I would just play soccer and do that. And then at around 13, 14, that's when the journey to playing more organized soccer started.
And then when I was doing some research for the interview, I saw you actually did a GQ interview, and you mentioned I think the move was because your dad got a better job in Canada, right? That worked for your family.
So the reason we moved to Canada was essentially my uncle was already living in Canada,
Okay.
and my parents had the vision of we're going to move to Canada and get better jobs. And also, the education system will be better in North America, so it's going to be nice
Hmm.
for our kids. So that was the plan going in. That plan didn't quite map out how they wanted it to. But yeah, that was essentially the reason we moved. It was for work and education.
And then you mentioned the educational purpose because you also said in the interview how your parents were very strict on
Yeah.
having a son that's either a lawyer or a doctor or something with a strong educational background. And you ended up going kind of the complete opposite route. Do you want to speak on that a little bit and see how that kind of unfolded?
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of listeners, if you have Middle Eastern parents or like brown parents or like Asian parents, you can relate. You've got the three options. You've got doctor, lawyer, and engineer. So growing up, my mom worked as a medical professional back home. So she was a great inspiration for me, and she definitely had that influence, and she wanted me to pursue that similar route. So throughout school, I always got good marks because I felt like I really wanted to do something for my parents for all their
Hmm.
effort that they put into like move us to Canada. So I was always like a average type of student and things were going quite well. All the way up to high school, I got like a 90 something percent average in high school. And then there was a stage where I knew I really liked football and I wanted to take it to the next level. But at the same time, I had that pressure of education from my parents. So the common ground was going to university and playing university soccer. And then I was going to get my education at the same time while being able to play soccer. The long term, like how it mapped out, I started
Hmm.
doing a bit more towards like content creation and doing soccer. I still finished my school, so I graduated from university, but there was definitely some friction and some like ups and downs throughout that journey.
And then yeah, so you're technically now I think you'd be under the umbrella of a content creator. Some people like the title, some people don't. But one of your first big projects that kind of got you onto the scene was the 365 days to become a pro footballer. How did that journey begin? And I remember actually watching some of your first videos, and it was quite cool to see the transition from all the way your first few videos till the end, where you had really grown an audience, and even the way you learn to film and make your videos completely changed from beginning to end. But do you want to get into kind of what was the first inspiration to start that type of series?
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you. I'm just curious, what was the first video you saw? When did you tune in?
So I started watching, you were either in Austria or just coming to Canada for a break. You had some sort of break in training.
Yeah.
And then you had an unwell family member, and that was when I remember that
Okay.
video. And it was like a super emotional time where you were
Yeah.
like kind of in this lost space. So to see from that point all the way till now is like unbelievable. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's completely shifted. That was definitely one of the most difficult moments I went through. But to backtrack, so I've been going at this for a long time. Like I've been sharing it for the last couple of years.
Right.
But when I was in around high school, I made the commitment that I want to take it to a serious level and I want to see how far I can push. And at that point, I really like tried really hard. Like I would wake up at 6 a.m., go to the field to train. And if you live in Canada or anywhere cold, you know that most of the year, like it's incredibly cold. There's no light early on in the
Hmm.
morning. So you go out, there was snow on the field. I would still get that session in by myself because I started football quite late. So I needed to catch up and
Right.
didn't have like the best financial situation, the best resources. So I would go train before school, I would go train after school, do whatever it took to try and catch up to the rest. And I did that pretty much like all throughout high school. And I had a couple of targets I wanted to reach. There were a couple of clubs that I started at the lowest level of competitive soccer, so I wanted to work my way up. And I remember I would go to trials and I would make it. I would get cut. I would keep going. I would try again. I would get cut. Then I would go finally make it to the next step, and I would try and climb up and climb up. And then moving into university, I played university soccer, and then I also took a bit of time off to go and play in Austria. But that was like none of that was documented really, apart from a couple of YouTube videos.
Right.
In 2021, on the first of the year, January 1st, 2021, I'm like, let me set out a challenge. 365 days to build that's the current challenge. 365 days
Yeah.
signing a pro football contract. And there was two reasons behind it. One was self-accountability. I wanted to share the journey because I knew if I shared it, then everybody's got their eyes on me and I have to make it happen. Because it's been like multiple years I've been going at it and I haven't been able to achieve it. So I'm going to put it out there and it's going to give me that accountability to make it happen. And the second part of it was inspiration for other people. So I want to inspire other people that
Mhm.
it's not about where you are, it's about where you want to get to and how hard you're willing to work to get there. So if you're willing to work incredibly hard and figure out and learn and make the right moves and keep pushing and never give up, you can make it to a very, very high level. So I want to share that process and then also the behind the scenes of football because there's a lot you don't get to see and most people only share their highlights. And throughout that timeline, I committed to sharing my setbacks and my failures. And I think that's what resonated with people. That's why I had such great engagement in the content. It's because I would share when things wouldn't go well. And yeah, that's essentially what started the journey. The 365 days, I thought it would be cool to throw out a challenge. And it's,
Mhm.
it's like a cool storyline to follow. Can he make it happen in 365 days? And that was officially the beginning, the first of 2021.
The behind the scenes aspect is a similar inspiration to why I started this. Many of the people we've had on already, they're scouts or they're agents, and you really don't get media opportunities to share your own story. And so I find that yeah, sure, your head coaches or your managers or your top players always get to share their stories on in press conferences and maybe their own YouTube channels or whatever it is. But many of the people behind the scenes that really grow clubs and grow the industry as a whole don't get to share, or you don't even know of them or who they are or what they do. And so that was one of the first early kind of inspirations to bring these people on and interview them and learn the full story.
I love that. Yeah, there's so many interesting stories that need to be shared. So I love the fact that you have this platform. What would you say is something that surprised you, something that you didn't see coming with like all the interviews and podcasts you've done so far? Is there a common theme that comes to mind?
Oh, that's a good question. You should be taking my spot here.
Yeah.
um, a common thing across the board would be just the what I've learned so far. There's like common. So I ask the same questions, and we'll get into those later on. But there's a few questions I ask everyone, and it's just the amount I've learned. I think is the common theme. Like I was shocked by how much I actually got to learn.
Yeah.
We've only done this will be episode I think 15, I believe. And the goal is to get to 100 before I even think of stopping. So once I hit 100,
Okay.
then so that's why I can really relate to you with the 365 days.
Yeah.
Because the 100 is kind of the goal where I can go, okay, at 100, let me see if I'm willing to keep moving forward, or is there a plan or kind of a new opportunity that I can go. And yeah, so just like the three questions are like, what is your major challenge in life, and how has that helped you improve? And then your greatest advice for someone that wants to follow your career path. And the third one is if we could sit down in 10 years to have the same conversation, what would it look like? Where would we be? Kind of give me the full rundown of it. And those have just given me the inspiration and kind of just to keep going and learning from new people. I find it so fascinating.
Yeah, I love that. And every single person is going to give you a different perspective that you can then come and
Totally
implement in
different.
your own life.
And you mentioned, so we'll get back on, kind of on track on where
Yeah.
we were. You mentioned a lot of your first opportunities were in Austria and around the Austrian pyramid for football. Was that mainly because you were from there? Did you use your passport? Like, do you have your Austrian passport, and did you use that to your advantage?
Exactly. So having that, it basically created a route for me to be like, okay,
Hmm.
this pathway makes the most sense. So there was an important timeline in the story where I was playing university soccer, and coming into university soccer, I was a rookie. I didn't. A lot of kids in my city, they had the connections, they had the information. I didn't know anything. My parents didn't really educate me on like athletics, like they're
Yeah,
maybe more
I had the same
academic.
background. Yeah.
So I go in, I don't know anything. First year was very tough. I got like one appearance, and I remember it was very difficult, shy, not confident, and it was very difficult mentally, to be honest. I was studying biomedical sciences at the time, and then after year one, going into year two, some of the seniors left, and I remember I had a meeting with the coach, and he said, "Hey, look, now you're next up. You're next up in line." And I trained incredibly hard in the winter. We had a couple of different training camps. I got good feedback at those training camps. Hey, you're competing for the starting 11. Preseason was going well too. I scored 2 goals in the 3 or 4 matches we had because preseason is quite short in university soccer in North America. And then the day before the season started, there were a final 2 to 3 cuts to be made, and everybody kind of knew who those players were, but
Hmm.
neither me or any of the teammates thought I would be one of the picks. So I walked into the meeting, and I remember I was so shook by the decision. So I was released on that day right before the season. And then after that happened, that's a whole story, but it was very difficult. It was definitely like a low point in the journey. I had no team. I created my whole university schedule around my training. So I had like class in the morning, then I had a weird gap, and then I had classes again at night.
Hmm.
And I had probably a couple months of no team training and no motivation. So for me, a blessing in disguise that closed the door, or my perception was it closed the door in Ottawa at the time. So then I'm like, okay, where do I go? So I started researching a bunch of different countries and environments and clubs. And one of my main focus was Austria. So for 8 months, all I did, okay, search up the league system, football pyramid. Okay, these are the clubs. Find the emails, sporting director here, chairperson here. Send out emails. I'd send out a bunch of emails. Check the inbox, no replies. Same thing again. Keep going every single week. And finally, I got one response from a third division club. And long story short, after my final exam of the winter semester, I booked a one-way trip to Austria, and I got that trial. And that was my first opportunity over there.
Brilliant. And before we'll get into Alcobila in a second here, and what your next journey, I guess you could say, is.
Yeah,
But first, I mentioned that you'd be a good podcaster, and you actually had a podcast called, I think it was 8 Billion Gifts, right?
yeah.
Do you want to touch on that? What was the inspiration behind starting that, and how did it unfold? We can start with that.
Yeah, so 8 billion gifts. It was a podcast. The idea behind it is 8 billion people on our planet. Every single person has a unique gift that they get to share with the world. So every week we would have a new person on to share their story and their unique gift with the audience. How it started, it was COVID, so pandemic hit. And when pandemic hit, a lot of people had nothing to do. We were all stuck at home. And prior to that, a couple months or about a year before that, I started getting into podcasts and books a lot, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I still do. And I had the inspiration of like, hey, it would be cool if I start my own podcast. So I started thinking of like themes and what the vision of the podcast would be. Came up with 8 billion gifts, and I started it. So the goal was every Monday, I believe, or there was a certain day of the week where I would release an episode, but I would commit to doing it every single week for 1 year. That's what I wanted to do, and it was very difficult because I had full-time school and I also
Mhm.
had soccer at the time I was playing, and I was working too. But I'm very happy I was able to commit to doing 52 episodes, so 52 weeks,
Wow.
different people from different parts of the world. And what inspired me to do it is I want to practice my self confidence, my communication skills, and also I wanted to grow my network and connections and at the same time inspire other people. So I did 52 episodes. And after 52 episodes, I got an opportunity to travel to Spain. And because I was traveling to Spain, I told myself, okay, I'll take a couple months off and then I'll assess if I want to come back to do season
Mhm.
two. And life just took off. I
Yeah.
did the football thing and social media blew up. And so for now, it's just season one. But that podcast definitely helped me a lot. Like it built up a lot of skills for me and it grew my perspective and mindset.
And then we'll get into your next journey, Al Kabila. So this started, I want to say two,
Yeah.
3 months ago, maybe, or at least when it was launched and kind of the start of the preparation. Um, Feel free. Some people might not know what it is, so let's hear what it is and kind of the journey you've been on in the last few months.
For sure. So Al Kabila FC, it by the way, it means the tribe in Arabic. So the idea of it is that we're creating a family, a strong community, a group of players that fights together and has the same goals and the same values. Al Kabila FC is essentially a professional football club that we are making in 365 days, and it's going to be located in Dubai. What makes the club special is it's a club for the people. So we're making the audience and the people a part of building up the club. So we're documenting the whole process on social media. Every single day we're putting out a video. We did the club identity, so the name, the logo, the club colors. Now we're designing kits, and we're gonna keep up that process throughout the next however many 300 days that are remaining. Bit of backstory on how it came about. Obviously, I did the 365 days to signing a pro contract. Year one, I went for it in Spain. The year mapped out, didn't quite achieve the goal. I decided I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do year two. Year two, I went at it, a lot of ups and downs again, but I was able to make it happen in Dubai. Then our team got promoted. And then this year, when your team gets promoted, you essentially have restrictions on foreign players. So a lot of the team got released, including myself, but the communication was very unprofessional and management not professional. A lot of things behind the scenes.
Mhm.
Also, just seeing a lot of going to other clubs that I had to trial with and seeing how things are run in football. As a kid, you see a lot of like it's amazing, it's great, like
Yeah.
but then when you actually grow up, you get to see the behind the scenes. And you only get to see the behind the scenes if you actually gone through it. And I've gone through it. I've played at pretty high levels, and I've seen, how players get treated, not getting paid on time. If a player gets injured, they don't really care about that player anymore. There's a lot of stuff, and I was sitting, and this idea came to me. It was this gift from the universe, and the gift was, hey, you've been able to inspire so many people around the world. How about we now genuinely create a platform, a club where people can come and you can genuinely make a positive impact in the football world. So all of the scams and the BS and the things that are terrible about football, what if I can change that and provide a platform for people to come and be a part of it. We give them all the different resources. So the goal is we want to give them all the best football development, technical, tactical, physical, mental training. We want to teach them how to be mentally tough, how to build their confidence, leadership skills. We want to build up their life outside of football, so their business side of things. We want for them to like excel in finances, in relationships. Essentially, if you're part of Al Qabila FC, whether you're a player or part of just the community, you're going to be a winner in all elements of life. And that is something that really resonates with me because now, like, having been in football for 10, 15 plus years and seeing so many friends and teammates, a lot of people have football, but outside of football, they don't have anything else. Like, they
Mhm.
literally don't have anything else. And it was sad for me to see. So I'm committed to providing a platform where we're going to have a youth academy too. And that's where it really touches my heart. I can bring players on and develop them early on and teach them how to be amazing football players, but amazing human beings. So Al Qabila FC, we're building a pro football club in 365 days. We're day 60 something right now, and the goal is to get it done by October of 2024.
I think it's really unique. You're starting to see these new opportunities with the likes of like Ryan Reynolds and Wrexham,
Yeah.
and but you've almost taken it from a whole new aspect. You've built the club from the ground, and I think especially in the Middle East, where you're seeing this whole new adaptation with the World Cup being in Qatar, the not this next World Cup, but the one after being in Saudi Arabia. You're starting to see a lot of interest now in the Middle East. Like you said, the World Football Summit's there next week. And I think you've really nailed the timing, and also with such a unique idea, people will, whether they like it or not, they'll still be interested in it just because it's unique. Like I said, I think it's really really clever on that side.
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity right now in the Middle Eastern market, especially with what Saudi Arabia did this summer, brought all
Mhm.
the attention to the region. So I just saw a fantastic opportunity to make this happen in the UAE. And there's a legitimate pathway for us to have a professional club that's going to compete in the official UAE FA competition system. So yeah, I'm very excited to build this up. A little bit of secret information. The plan right now is to build it up in Dubai, and it's a massive project, so that's where all the focus is going. But the long-term vision is to expand. So we want to hit different cities and countries around the world. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a very global project.
Yeah, you mentioned the global project, and then we were also speaking on your social media following. How does that kind of entail into the club, and how have you been able to use that as an asset for the building process of the club?
My plan when I thought of this was if I document the whole process, I already have my own case study. I did it on my journey to signing a pro football contract. If I now document the process of building up a professional football club in 365 days, which has never been done before, it's a very engaging storyline. And when
Mhm.
I document it piece by piece, my prediction that I had before I started day one of this new journey was I'm going to create a magnet where it's going to get a bunch of attention. A lot of people are going to tune in, and 99% of those people are going to be football players and fans supporting the project. It's really cool to be involved with. But the 1% of CEOs, business people, investors, sponsorships, that 1% over the next 365 days, I believe, is what's going to enable us to actually be able to pull this off. So that's the power I've had with social media is yes, we're building brand, marketing, all of that. Like that's a whole big side of it. But the side that a lot of people don't think about is strategically structuring this in a way where I am now attracting the resources and the tools to me to be able to actually pull this project off.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about all the different aspects of the not only the club but of your career and all these many different things that you're working on. What
Yep.
does, if someone could ask, what does a day in the life of Soheil look like? What are you working on? What are you putting your time towards?
Yeah, this time of the year is insanely crazy. It's probably because I decided to build a pro football club. But day in the life. So I have a whiteboard. I have two whiteboards that helps me schedule my things. But every single day I have training. So a rough day in the life, team training. Then there's going to be one gym session. Then there's going to be one recovery session. So I'll put it into different compartments. So that's me as an athlete. And then
Mhm.
obviously I have my nutrition. So I eat 4 meals a day. And then I have my try and get 8 hours of sleep. It's been a little bit hectic, I'm not gonna lie, in the last couple of weeks with this big project. But that's me as an athlete. Then I have anywhere from 1 to 4 business meetings per day. So these are either in-person meetings or they're going to be Zoom calls. And these are all part of the process of moving the vision forward. So brand deals, sponsorships, talking about kits, hiring people, recruitment, logistics of licensing, like the list goes on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the other part of my schedule is we actually run a social media agency here in Dubai. So I've mastered the art of being able to create engaging content, and a lot of companies and clients could benefit from that. So we offer that to different clients out here in Dubai, and we're now scaling a team that is going quite well. So another couple of hours each day are put towards that, whether it's doing Zoom meetings with the team or going out to actual client shoots and overseeing the filming process. So, yeah, that's a typical day in the life. And I am being more intentional with every couple of days, I implement something, whether it's going and hanging out with friends or we just went to do camel riding. So I'm trying to implement something social as well, and having all that balance is difficult. But having tools like a whiteboard, journaling every night, there's a couple of routines and habits that I have that help me optimize this. Those are all very helpful.
No, it's good. It's an inspiring balance because I think the biggest struggle is your sleep, your eating schedule. I think all of those are so important,
Yeah.
not only for your general health, but also for your mental health and helping you physically work harder and build, like you're saying, you're building your own brand, you're building a club, you have many projects, and I think that's a good balance for you. We'll get into some of the Insiders Lounge favorites. So I asked these to each guest. It's where we really like to learn from the guest and really pull out from their roots what they're really about. One of the first questions is, what is the most significant challenge? And we can kind of two-part this. What is the biggest challenge you've had in your life in general throughout the last 20 something years? And then also within the club, we can say, what has been the biggest challenge so far that you've been able to either overcome, or overcoming that will lead to the kind of the next stepping stone?
Good question. So, first part of the question, not talking about the club, like just in my life
Mhm.
in general. Obviously, a lot of challenging moments come to mind, but I would say a big one was mentally balancing the pressure of having like all this pressure of academics and education while pursuing and being so passionate about a different route, which was football and social media. That was one big, you know, thing in my life that was very difficult. And another big thing was when I documented my journey to signing a pro football contract, because I shared a lot of the setbacks and I was very transparent with it. When I failed and when things didn't go well, I would get a lot of hate and a lot of judgment. And there were times in the journey where it would really pile up. Like I would get like hundreds of hate comments. And what I was trying to do is inspire people and get them to believe in themselves and motivate people. But there's always going to be people out there who hate and stuff. And when it
Mm.
gets compounded and over time and time and time, and then you're also going through difficult situations in life, like there was a family health situation that I was going through. That's very difficult. So those two things mainly come to mind um, upon like initial thoughts. And then for the building the pro football club, I would say the biggest challenge, if we're talking like very directly, it's coming up with the funding to be able to pull it
Mhm.
off, like getting the investment on board, because money moves things. So we need money to be able to pay salaries, to be able to run operational costs and all that. That's the first big thing that comes to my mind. And the second thing that comes to my mind is finding the right people to bring on to be part of the core team, but behind the scenes. So not the first team football players, but the
Right.
people actually running the football club, bringing the right talent who can pull this off in the way that I want it to be pulled off. That's in alignment with the vision. So that process is ongoing, but
Mhm.
it's definitely a challenge.
No, I can I can't really imagine, but I can imagine how much of a struggle that could be. If someone's watching or listening right now and they followed your journey so far, or they're about to start following your journey, and they go, that's something I want to look towards, whether it's the social media side of things, or just your business aspect with the creative agency and the club, what is some advice you have for, we can do another two-parter in terms of like being like your professional football journey and that
Yeah.
career side, and then also the business social media side of things.
Okay. So, advice I have for somebody who wants to be a professional football player is play on the best possible local team in your current city. Get onto that team or get onto the top 5 teams. Whatever the best teams are, be part of that team. Be one of the best players on that team. So, be like a top 3 player, if not the best player on that team. Make sure you're playing every single week. Train 3 to 4 times extra on your own and make sure it's deliberate practice so you're improving specific skills that are going to make you stand out on the football pitch. To play at a high level in football, you need to stand out. So if you're a winger, you need to be able to take players on 1v1. That's what makes an impact. Yes, you need to be able to do all the simple things, but what stands out to scouts and coaches and agents is you can do the simple things, plus you have that extra thing, or plus you have the 2 traits that are going to make you stand out on the field. Then build up your portfolio. So have a CV, have a highlight video, and start growing your football network. So get to know influential coaches in your city, in your country, influential scouts, agents, anybody in the football space. And then finally be proactive with the process. So whatever level you're at and you want to push to the next level, don't wait to get scouted. Reach
Mm.
out, send emails, send WhatsApp messages, go on LinkedIn, send messages on LinkedIn, make phone calls, put yourself into those environments, because the more environments you put yourself into, the higher chance you'll have of being able to make it to the professional level in football. That's the first part. And then the second part was on social media and everything else, right?
Yeah, kind of the rest of that you're working on right now.
Yeah. So what I would say is anybody who wants to get into social media and use the power of like branding and content to build up their network and get opportunities through that route, the most important thing, I want to give practical advice. So everything can be done with an iPhone or a phone. So everybody listening to this right now, or if you're watching this, you have all the tools you need to do everything I've done. So everything I have, I did it with my phone. Now, content, you got to post very consistently. So either once every single day or once every second day. What works nowadays is short format content. So you want to be on the most relevant platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, all the relevant platforms. And you want to create anywhere from 10-second to 30, 40-second videos. Focus on the hook, make the intro of the video very engaging. That's the most important part. And then keep a pretty fast tempo in the video. So have different angles, different cuts, change your tone, have different visuals pop up, provide value or information or entertainment in your video, and keep people curious. So try and reveal whatever the answer to the video is or to the storyline at the end of the video or somewhat throughout the
Mm-hmm.
middle of the video. Creating a storyline really helps, like Journey to Pro or whatever that storyline for yourself is. But the most important thing is execution. So post every single day or every second day. Start pumping out content. The more content you pump out, the more views you'll get, the more followers you'll get. You'll start to see what works. You'll read the comments. Okay, this is what people like. More of this content, and then you just continue to grow. I would say that's the most practical advice and a good starting point, because accountability is super important. If you have anybody in your current circle who is a content creator or an influencer, or they're in the social media space, go and grab a coffee with them, go and sit down with them, ask them about their current experience, and see if you can collaborate with them. Go and help them out for a bit and learn about the process of what it actually takes. Because if you can attach yourself to somebody else who's already doing it, that's going to
Mm-hmm.
give you a really good push to be able to do it as well.
And we're getting towards 2024, or we're almost done 2023, getting towards 2024. I've asked the last few guests this just as we're wrapping up on the year. Do you have one specific goal or maybe a few goals that you're looking towards in 2024? Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely have big goals. The biggest goal is to build this professional football club in 365 days and make massive impact in the football world. I want everybody to know about this project, and I want everybody to be engaged. We've already built a really good global audience. So that's going to be a massive goal. That's going to be incredibly challenging to pull off, but we're going to be able to pull it off. I'm very confident. On a personal level, football wise, playing every single week. So I'm still currently playing behind the scenes. That's just not the content that I'm putting out. I'm mainly
Right.
focused on building the pro football club. Playing every single week, which is happening right now. I'm in great form. I'm very happy with things. And having a successful season with my football club. On the agency side, continuing to scale that up, racking up more clients and all that. I'll flip the switch a bit and get to like the personal side of things. Building a more in-depth social circle here in Dubai. Dubai can be quite a superficial city, so I'm excited to build
Mm.
more social connections here. And then also I'm excited to do some more traveling and go to a couple new places and really ingrain myself into the culture without having this overlaying pressure of like football. So I'll need to be strategic with when I time those trips. But I had a trip last year that I really enjoyed and it allowed me to be very present. So I definitely want to do more of those things.
Great. And the last one here, like we mentioned earlier, if we sat down to have this conversation in 5 to 10 years,
Yeah.
where do you think you'll be in terms of your personal side and also just the business as a whole?
I see myself running Al Qabila FC, and at that stage, it's going to be a massive club. It's going to have a massive fan base. We will have created some of the best players, brand wise and talent wise as well, in the region here.
Mhm.
Then also, I'm going to continue to grow my own personal brand. So, doing speaking gigs, doing different partnerships. That's going to continue to grow. I'm very excited for that. The agency will scale to a point where we're going to have a successful team operating all the clientele that we currently have. And then I have other goals too, like getting into real estate and building up a portfolio on that front. And yeah, I'll probably be in a couple different parts of the world. I want to live a life where I'll be in Dubai for a bit, but then, I'll pop into Europe, I'll pop into North America, global.
No, I like that. So we just got the quick fire questions to end it off here, and then
Yeah,
you're all set. So
cool.
obviously, other than Al Qabila, what is your diehard team that do you support? Do you have a team? I know some people, once you get into the football industry, it
Yeah.
kind of the feeling dies off, and you kind of just support football as a whole. But do you have that like diehard team, or is it?
Yeah, so my childhood team was Bayern, and that's still the team that I support. And yeah, I'm hoping they do well in the Champions League this year.
I love it. Do you have a favorite quote or saying that you live by?
That's a great question. I have a couple of quotes. One that just came to my mind right away is things happen for you, not to you.
That's good. I'm gonna let that resonate for a little bit. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you have top recommendations for Dubai? You've obviously spent a few months there now.
Yeah.
I'm a big foodie, so if I'm coming to watch an El Kabila game, what is your number one food recommendation?
There's a couple really good food places. One that stands out recently, we went to Sushi Samba, is it called? It's right by the marina. Really
Hmm.
good place down there. Dubai Mall has a couple of good places. Zuzu. There's a nice chicken place, a nice Italian place. You let me know when you're here. We'll go.
All right.
And then the other thing I'll say is Dubai has amazing experiences. So doing stuff
Hmm.
like going ATVing in the desert, that's a lot of fun. Jet skiing, the list goes on. It's a really fun city.
Brilliant. And I know some people that come on, sometimes they're big readers. Some people like reading. So you mentioned you're a little into reading, but also the podcast. So what's your favorite book that you've liked recently? And then what's your favorite podcast that you listen to?
One book that really impacted me and started my reading journey was Mindset by Carol Dweck. It talks
Mm.
about having a growth mindset opposed to a fixed mindset. I haven't read that book since I started reading, but that
Hmm.
definitely stands out. A current one I'm reading the 48 Laws of Power, I believe the book is called. So life's pretty hectic, but I'm trying to get a couple pages in every couple of days. So that's a good one. Another one I liked is Atomic Habits. I'm big on productivity, so that book gives you a lot of action steps that you can execute on right away.
And favorite podcast? Do you have one at the moment?
Yeah, I have a couple of podcasts I really enjoy listening to. The ones that stand out are Ed Milet, Tom Bilyeu, School of Greatness,
Hmm.
and Tony Robbins. Those are my go-to.
All right, those are some good recommendations. I like those.
Yeah.
Besides soccer, sometimes you just need something to give you a mental break and relax and kind of take your mind away from it. Do you have a hobby or something that you go towards to just relax and chill out for a little bit?
I'm getting into boxing. That's a lot of fun.
Okay.
It's still pretty intense. So I don't know if it's classified a hobby, but
Hmm.
boxing is pretty fun. I like just like de-stressing with doing an activity. So for example, whether it's going to the desert or just going out with a couple of friends and having a dinner, more of a chilled vibe, that's always
Mm.
nice. And traveling, but traveling's a bit more of a commitment. But the
Right.
things I do pretty like week to week are like just going out, grabbing some food, chilling, doing an activity, stuff like that.
And the last one here. If you could sit down with one person, dead or alive, for a meal, who would it be and why?
Nice one. Who would it be? A couple names come to mind. Sitting down with one of the podcasts I mentioned, like sitting down with Tony Robbins, for example, would be really cool.
Hmm.
A guy who's so experienced in self-development and business and all these different pillars of life. I'd love to sit down with him and have a discussion.
This was great. I really appreciate you coming on. Before we leave, feel free to shout out El Kabila, tell people where to go, where to follow you, and then we'll wrap things up.
For sure. So best place to follow at Soheil.var on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. And also at Al Kabila FC. That's where we're documenting the process of building the pro football club.
And we'll add that in the description and everything. But yes, Soheil, thanks for coming on once again, and we'll keep in touch.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Wanna hear you go.